One of the most iconic artists from the late 19th century is Alphonse Mucha. His work featured feminine presenting people in simple draped garments with elaborate headdresses and backed with beautiful whiplash curves that were so very popular during the Art Nouveau movement. Given the unending popularity of the 1890s, the gorgeous headdresses, and the simplicity of the gowns themselves, you have to wonder why we don't see more of these Mucha girls represented in the historical costuming community. I mean, apart from the more risque ones, because you can't just go into the office with your yabos half hanging out. Not including that though, we really need to bring these styles into the fold. They're gorgeous. They give you an excuse to wear all of those tiaras that you impulse buy. And the coolest thing about it is that they're super easy to make, don't need complicated patterns, and if you're smart, you can probably figure out a way to make your Mucha outfit work as a piece in your everyday wardrobe. Still not convinced? Let me give you a practical demonstration. I'm quite excited to get started on this project, but before we get into making it, let's talk a little bit about the inspiration and the design ideas. So Mucha was quite a prolific artist. There are many, many different styles to choose from. However, the one major stipulation I have for this project is that it be something I can wear to the office in my everyday life, which eliminates about 70% of them. So originally I was looking at the ones where they have these beautiful embroidered yokes on the front. I thought that would be really fun, but I am in the middle of a very big embroidery project right now and there's just not enough time. One of the things that appealed to me right when I started to do research were the series on the arts that he did. I really like that he has ombre on some of these. It's just beautiful. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I came across this one. It looks like she's wearing her chemise or her corset cover and then has a wrappy skirt that goes over top. This is perfect. I love the idea of it being more than one piece instead of one dress. We do not like unitaskers here at Fantastical Follies. We like multitaskers. And if this is two, or actually what I'm thinking is 3 pieces, then that is going to be fabulous for my wardrobe. First, we'll tackle the underskirt, and then we can move on to the more complicated bits. In the spirit of Mucha's artwork, this is going to be a very simple skirt with basic details. 2 rectangles sewn selvage to selvage, the length of my waist to the floor. It will, however, have giant pockets like almost everything we make here. We have standard pocket procedure for the skirt, plus the lining is together. We are going to do something we don't usually do here and bag line the skirt just because it's so very sheer. I prefer to have 2 layers of fabric between the outside and my pockets. The front of the skirt will be gathered down to a fixed waistband, but the back will be held with elastic for comfort. I always like to pre-gather the back a little bit first though to reduce some of the bulk. Leave the waistband open at the sides. So that's where my footage ends. Not for the whole project, just the underskirt. I swear I filmed the entire process, but it does not exist. Poof, vamonos, he's gone. I don't know if the gremlins got it or in my post-closet disaster, pre-Japan stress and anxiety, I just thought I filmed it, but didn't actually. Luckily, I did the waistband a little wonky and want to go back and fix it, so I can at least show you some of the process on the back end, and you're smart enough to figure out the rest, right? Yeah. Here's the fixed front of the waistband. I extended the fixed bit about 6 inches past the side seam on each side, again, to reduce bulk. Attach your elastic on one side of the waistband only, and add a safety pin to the other side before you start pinning the waistband over top. Make sure you dip the elastic down all the way against the seam to keep it secure. Here's the completed side pocket. I left pretty large slits in the side seams on both sides for ventilation purposes. The pocket was only sewn to the skirt, not the lining. Then I slipped the pocket bag through the open lining slit and secured it by hand. With most of the waistband sewn, you can then pull the elastic through the tube you just made. It's easier to tube then secure because otherwise the fabric gets scrunched up and it's a total nuisance. This is the tiara that I bought that inspired this whole idea. It's very pretty. It was clearly made for a head that is much larger than mine, but that's easy to do because I have a tiny pinhead. It has a lot of light pink, so naturally I thought light pink is a good place to start. And then I thought, well, what can I dye into pink that'll look pretty with the baby pink, but be more of something that would look good with my skin tone? And my thoughts went to dark pink. I've been doing a lot of pink lately. There were the pink Regency stays, the hot pink on the Betty dress I just made, the dress that I'm doing as a collaboration with a video that is not quite out yet is hot pink, so doing another pink on pink was probably not the way I wanted to go. And then I thought, what about red? And then I remembered that I have this gorgeous 3-yard cut of silk chiffon with a nice bright red on one side and a light pink on the other. I bought this back in 2021 for Mood. It was on sale, I got a good deal on it. It was meant for a modern project, and when I got it, I realized that the ombre was in the wrong direction for the modern project, and it's been sitting in my stash ever since, so I think this is the perfect opportunity to get this out of my stash. Added bonus, I don't have to agonize hours and hours over ombre dyeing this pink cotton voile. With that, the underskirt is complete, and now we can start to contemplate the top. Now, for some reason, there are no decent Edwardian corset cover patterns out there that are available to commercially purchase that are any kind of size inclusive. As someone who is typically smack dab in the middle of the size run, the fact that most of these barely make my measurements, I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna save that rant for another day. That's not why you're here today. So instead of dropping 20 bucks on a corset cover pattern, I'm gonna go ahead and work smarter and not harder and work backwards from an Edwardian shirtwaist pattern. This is Black Snail 0816, the Edwardian blouse pattern. I've done a full bust adjustment on this already and just traced it onto some gridded wrapping paper to make our corset cover pattern. First, I need to adjust the shoulder strap to accommodate my narrow shoulders. Then shorten the center front to get rid of some of the pigeon breast droopy bit, since this is a corset cover and not a blouse. The final modification was to add a center front overlap for buttons. Here's the difference between the corset cover and the blouse. Literally, I just zooped it off right here. It's about 4 inches longer in the center front and just moved the sleeve over because my poor shoulder is narrow. Obviously, I did the full bust adjustment first, so you're not looking at the original pattern, but you get the idea anyway, right? And then the only difference in the back piece versus the original blouse was obviously to remove the button band and lower the neckline in the back so it wasn't right up against my neck. And now for arguably the most on-brand thing I've ever said in my life. Now, I could do a white corset cover, but why when I could do another color? This is some orange-red lightweight linen I had in my stash that I dyed scarlet to match better with the chiffon. Edwardian corset covers vary greatly in design, and we could and probably will dedicate an entire video to the subject at some point in the future. But for this look specifically, I wanted to moderate the fullness in the front with pin tucks. I have no guide for this, so it's pure experimentation, and if you look close, you can see this was not my first attempt, nor was it my second. These are 1/2-inch tucks. Highly recommend marking your fold lines differently from your sewing lines. In my case, the folds are delineated by a dashed line. This will make your pin tucking so much easier. I've started these a little way away from the side seam and will stop a little away from the center front. Think the space where you would normally put bust darts. Pin tucking linen is a dream because you can finger press it so easily. If you're enjoying this video or finding it helpful, please consider giving the video a thumbs up and letting me know in the comments whether I've convinced you to give this style a try yet or not. Thank you so much to everyone who has contributed over on Ko-fi. I cannot continue to make videos without your continued support, and it's so greatly appreciated. I've linked down below if you have the will and the means, and I've also linked to our Discord channel if you're so inclined. Okay, let's pin this baby together and try her on. Yeah, looks pretty good. Now it's time to trim your corset cover however you'd like. I grabbed some cheap cotton lace I had in my stash and dyed it the same color as the linen. I also dyed a little tape to add a drawstring at the top. Okay, with the lovely, lovely trim attached, this is ready for buttons, and it's pretty much done. I found these plastic buttons in my random stash of inherited buttons, and I've got enough. They're a little bit bigger than I wanted. I think they're 5/8 inch buttons, and I kind of wanted 1/2 inch, but it'll be fine. They were free. I already had them. That's the best kind of button. And with that done, now we can contemplate the overskirt. Had a very strong and long debate with myself over whether I wanted the gradient of the skirt to be a pink at the top and red at the bottom, or red at the top and pink at the bottom. After some thinking, I've decided to do the opposite. Firstly, because these reds are not exactly the same. It's not quite as visible on camera, but in IRL, there is a difference. And if they're right next to each other, it's obvious. Whereas if it's on the bottom and there's the pink in between, they look more like they match precisely. And secondly, somehow there's a tiny hole in the pink. Not too happy about that. So if I do the pink on the top, then I can cut off the top for the waistband and hide the hole, and we will be ready to go. So I think that is what we're going to do. First, hem the outside edges of the fabric. The plan is to make this an open wrap skirt to minimize the amount of work, maintain the integrity of this gorgeous fabric, and give more of the drapey Mucha vibe. So next you want to run gathering stitches at the top and draw it down to the width of your waistband. Note if you're doing a wrap skirt like this, make sure you give yourself a little overlap at the side or wherever your opening is. I'm gathering this down to 4 inches wider than my waist measurement. Silk chiffon is super squidgy, so I decided to take the time and hand sew the waistband on. This way I can have full control since it's not particularly forgiving to mistakes. Famous last words. Don't forget to reinforce your waistband. Alrighty, the waistband is sewn. Obviously, it's a slightly different color because I ripped the top of the silk off to make the waistband, and because it's folded over the ombre, I'm zen with it. It is very, very pretty. I'm super excited. Now, my dumbass was not entirely thinking, and even though I'm going to have a full slit opening on one side to get into my pocket, there isn't one on the other side. But you know what? I had to lay this waistband in 3 times because I was trying to work when I was exhausted, which is a bad idea, by the way. I don't want to take it apart again, and I don't want to cut any more into this beautiful piece of fabric because maybe down the line I might want to take it apart and use it for something else. So we won't be able to get into one side of the pockets while we're wearing the overskirt. Not the end of the world, right? Right. And with the waistband taken care of, all that we have left to do is to get it hemmed. So let's go knock that baby out. This turned out way better than I imagined it would. It's gorgeous, especially that overskirt. And I'm super excited to have that out of my stash and into my closet. And I'm also so excited that I didn't have to agonize over ombre dyeing my own fabric for once. Speaking of which, in the mood for more luscious ombre 1890s content? Why not check out this video here, where I made an 1890s ball gown inspired by the Aurora Borealis. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. I love y'all, and I'll catch you in my next video.